Listen to me very carefully. What if I told you that the one thing you fear most in life, losing what you love, is actually the key to becoming completely unshakable? What if everything you've been taught about holding on tight is completely wrong? In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the first secret that separates people who crumble under pressure from those who remain calm no matter what life throws at them. This isn't some feel-good advice or positive thinking nonsense. This is a truth so profound that once it clicks in your mind, you'll wonder how you ever lived without knowing it. Right now, you're probably dealing with something that's stressing you out. Maybe it's a relationship problem, work drama, or just that constant worry about the future. Whatever it is, I guarantee that by the end of this lesson, you'll see it completely differently. You might even laugh at how much energy you've been wasting. But here's the catch. This principle will challenge everything you think you know about happiness and security. Are you brave enough to question your deepest beliefs? Because what I'm about to show you will either set you free or make you very uncomfortable. There's no middle ground. Picture a man sitting by a river, watching the water flow. He notices something fascinating. The river looks the same, yet it's completely different every second. New water constantly flows past him, never to return. The ancient teachers understood this perfectly. They saw that life itself is like this river, always moving, always changing, never truly the same from one moment to the next. The first lesson begins with a simple observation. Everything that comes into existence will eventually disappear. Your current problems, no matter how big they seem right now, are temporary visitors in your life. They arrived uninvited, and they will leave the same way. That argument you had last week that felt so important, where is it now? That embarrassing moment from your childhood that kept you awake at night? How often do you think about it today? When you truly see that difficult moments are just passing through, something magical happens. You stop fighting them so hard. Think about the last time you had a terrible headache. You probably didn't think it would last forever, so you were patient with it. You took some medicine, rested, and waited for it to pass. You can do the same thing with emotional pain, work stress, or relationship problems. But here's where it gets interesting. Good times are temporary too. That promotion you're excited about, that new relationship that makes you feel amazing, even the joy you feel when everything seems perfect. These moments will also change. This isn't meant to make you sad. It's meant to help you enjoy good times without clinging to them so tightly that you suffer when they end. A wise teacher once told his student about two types of people who get caught in the rain. The first person runs frantically, trying to dodge every drop, getting stressed and exhausted. The second person accepts that they're going to get wet and walks calmly through the rain. Both people get wet, but only one of them suffers. Life's changes are like that rain. They're going to happen whether you resist them or not. The beauty of accepting impermanence is that it teaches you to hold everything lightly. Your job, your home, your relationships, even your own thoughts and feelings. You can enjoy them fully while they're here, without the desperate need to make them permanent. It's like holding a butterfly. Grip it too tightly and you'll crush it. Hold it gently with an open palm and it might stay for a while before flying away naturally. This understanding changes how you react to daily events. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you remember that your anger will pass. When you receive criticism at work, you know that the sting will fade. When you experience loss or disappointment, you understand that these feelings, like everything else, are just visiting. They're not permanent residents in your heart. The most freeing part of this lesson is realizing that you don't have to solve everything or fix every situation immediately. Problems have their own lifespan. Some resolve themselves simply by the passage of time. Others transform into something completely different. By understanding impermanence, you learn to surf the waves of change instead of being knocked down by them. Now, here's where things get really interesting. You've learned that everything changes. But there's a second principle that will take your peace of mind to a completely different level. This lesson is about something most people get completely wrong: the relationship between effort and outcome. There was once a farmer who planted seeds every spring. He watered them, protected them from weeds, and gave them everything they needed to grow. But here's what made him different from other farmers. He never spent sleepless nights worrying about whether the harvest would be good or bad. He knew that after doing his part, the results were out of his hands. You see, most people make themselves miserable by trying to control things they can't control. They work hard on a presentation and then stress about whether their boss will like it. They're kind to someone and then get upset when that person doesn't appreciate it. They diet and exercise, then get frustrated when the scale doesn't move fast enough. The second lesson teaches you to separate your actions from your expectations. You do your best work, but you don't attach your happiness to getting promoted. You treat people well, but you don't expect them to treat you the same way in return. You take care of your health, but you don't measure your worth by how you look. This doesn't mean you stop caring or become lazy. Actually, it's the opposite. When you're not worried about results, you can focus completely on what you're doing right now. A basketball player who's thinking about missing the shot will probably miss it. But a player who focuses only on their form and technique often makes amazing shots without even trying. Think about a time when you did something just for fun, without any pressure to succeed. Maybe you were singing in the car, dancing alone in your room, or having a conversation with a good friend. Remember how natural and effortless it felt? That's what happens when you let go of needing specific outcomes. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it actually improves your results. When you're not tense about succeeding, you perform better. When you're not desperate for people's approval, they're naturally drawn to you. When you're not attached to making money, you often make better financial decisions. Here's the secret that changes everything. Your job is to plant seeds, not to control the weather. You can choose how much effort to put in, how much care to give, and how consistent to be. But you can't force the outcomes you want. The moment you truly understand this, a huge weight lifts off your shoulders. But there's something even more powerful than letting go of results. It's the third principle that will make you practically invincible to life's ups and downs. This lesson is about developing something that most people never learn: the ability to stay calm whether things are going amazingly well or terribly wrong. Picture a tree during a storm. The wind howls, rain pours down, and branches bend dramatically. But notice something interesting. The trunk stays perfectly still. It doesn't get excited when the sun comes out, and it doesn't panic when lightning strikes. The tree has learned the secret of staying rooted while everything around it goes crazy. This is exactly what the third lesson teaches you. It's about becoming like that tree trunk, steady and unmoved by external circumstances. When someone compliments your work, you feel good, but you don't let it go to your head. When someone criticizes you, you listen, but you don't let it crush your spirit. You stay the same person whether you're winning or losing. Most people live like emotional roller coasters. They're on top of the world when things go well, then crash into despair when problems arise. They celebrate promotions like they've won the lottery, then treat small setbacks like the end of the world. This constant up and down is exhausting and completely unnecessary. The wise person learns to receive both praise and blame with the same calm response. When your boss tells you that you did a great job, you simply say, "Thank you," and keep working. When someone points out your mistakes, you listen carefully and make improvements. Neither situation changes who you are or how you feel about yourself. Think about water in a glass. Whether you add hot water or cold water, the glass remains the same temperature. It doesn't become hot or cold. It just holds whatever you pour into it. You can learn to be like that glass, allowing experiences to flow through you without changing your inner state. This balance isn't about lack of emotion or becoming a robot. You still feel happy when good things happen and sad when bad things occur. The difference is that these feelings don't control you anymore. They're like clouds passing through the sky. You notice them, but they don't change the sky itself. The most amazing part of this practice is that it makes you incredibly strong. People who can stay balanced become natural leaders because others trust them not to overreact. They make better decisions because their judgment isn't clouded by extreme emotions. They have better relationships because they don't take everything personally. Now we come to perhaps the most life-changing principle of all. This fourth lesson will teach you something that sounds impossible but works like magic. How to find peace by completely accepting what you cannot change. Imagine a person stuck in heavy traffic. One driver sits there getting angrier by the minute, honking his horn, cursing at other cars, and making himself miserable. Another driver in the exact same traffic jam puts on some music, relaxes his shoulders, and uses the time to think about pleasant things. Same situation, completely different experience. The difference? One person is fighting reality, the other has accepted it. This is what the fourth lesson is all about. Stopping your war against what's already happening. When it rains on your picnic, you can either spend the day complaining about the weather or find a way to enjoy the unexpected change of plans. When someone disappoints you, you can either waste energy being upset or simply adjust your expectations for the future. Most people exhaust themselves trying to change things that have already happened or people who don't want to change. They replay arguments in their heads, wishing they had said something different. They get frustrated with family members who act exactly like they've always acted. They resist getting older, getting sick, or facing problems that are simply part of being human. The wise person learns to say yes to life as it is, not as they wish it would be. This doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means saving your energy for things you can actually influence. You can't change what happened yesterday, but you can change how you respond today. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your own reactions. Think about trying to swim against a strong river current. You'll exhaust yourself and probably drown. But if you relax and float with the current, you can guide yourself toward the shore safely. Accepting reality is like floating with the current. You work with life's flow instead of against it. Here's what's amazing. The moment you truly accept a difficult situation, it often starts to improve. When you stop fighting your circumstances, you can see opportunities you missed before. When you accept people as they are, your relationships become more peaceful. When you accept your own limitations, you can focus on your actual strengths. This acceptance isn't about being weak or giving up hope. It's about being smart with your energy. Instead of wasting power trying to change the past or control the future, you use that same energy to make the best choices available right now. There's a fifth principle that will protect you from the deepest kind of pain, the hurt that comes from other people's actions. This lesson teaches you something that sounds almost too good to be true: how to transform your worst enemies into sources of inner strength. Picture a mother watching her child throw a tantrum in the grocery store. The child is screaming, hitting, and saying mean things, but the mother doesn't get angry or take it personally. She understands that the child is tired and frustrated, not truly evil. She responds with patience and love, even in the middle of the chaos. This is exactly how the fifth lesson teaches you to see everyone who hurts you. That rude customer service person? They're probably having the worst day of their life. Your difficult boss? They're likely stressed and scared about their own problems. The friend who betrayed you? They're struggling with their own pain and made a terrible choice. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you or excuse bad behavior. It means you understand that hurt people hurt people. When someone is cruel to you, it's usually not about you at all. It's about their own suffering spilling over onto others. The most powerful part of this practice is learning to feel genuine care for people who have wronged you. Not because they deserve it, but because carrying hatred in your heart is like holding a hot coal. You're the one who gets burned. When you wish someone well, even someone who hurt you, you free yourself from the poison of resentment. Think about the last time someone was really kind to you when you were having a bad day. Maybe you were grumpy and they smiled anyway. Maybe you made a mistake and they helped instead of judging. Remember how that kindness made you feel? You can choose to be that person for others, regardless of how they treat you. Here's what's incredible. When you respond to meanness with genuine kindness, it often completely disarms the other person. They expect you to fight back, get defensive, or be hurt. When you respond with understanding instead, it catches them off guard and sometimes even helps them calm down. This approach also protects your own peace of mind in a remarkable way. When someone insults you and you respond with compassion, their words lose all power over you. You might think, that person must be really struggling to say something so harsh, instead of, how dare they talk to me that way? The insult bounces right off you because you're wearing invisible armor made of understanding. But even with all this wisdom, there's still one thing that can make you suffer more than anything else, and it's something most people never even notice. The sixth principle reveals the biggest trick your mind plays on you every single day. Think about how you introduce yourself to new people. You probably say your name, your job, where you're from, maybe mention your hobbies or family. But here's the strange thing. None of these things are actually you. They're just labels you've collected over the years, like stickers on a suitcase. The sixth lesson teaches you something that sounds crazy at first. Most of your suffering comes from defending an idea of yourself that doesn't really exist. You get upset when people don't respect your position, hurt when they don't appreciate your achievements, and angry when they question your opinions. But what if there was nothing to defend in the first place? Imagine you're playing a character in a movie. While filming, you completely believe you are that character. You get emotionally invested in their relationships, worried about their problems, and proud of their successes. But when the director yells "cut," you immediately remember it was all pretend. You can step out of the costume and go home as yourself. The wise person learns to see that they've been playing a character their whole life, the character of me. This character has a history, preferences, fears, and dreams. But just like the movie character, it's not the real you. The real you is the one watching the character play their role. When someone criticizes your work, instead of thinking they're attacking me, you can think they're commenting on something this character did. When you fail at something, instead of "I'm a failure," you think this character had a setback. When people don't like you, instead of taking it personally, you realize they just don't connect with this particular character. This shift changes everything. You stop needing to be right all the time because there's no ego to protect. You stop comparing yourself to others because you realize you're not really in competition with anyone. You stop taking rejection personally because you understand that people are responding to your character, not your true self. The most liberating part is that you can change your character anytime you want. If you don't like being the angry person, or the victim, or the perfectionist, you can simply choose to play a different role. You're the actor, the director, and the audience all at once. Now comes a skill that will revolutionize how you experience daily life. The seventh principle teaches you to become the observer of your own thoughts instead of being controlled by them. Right now, as you're reading this, thoughts are popping up in your mind. Maybe you're thinking about what you'll have for dinner, or remembering something that happened earlier today, or wondering if this advice actually works. But here's the fascinating question. Who is the one noticing these thoughts? Most people think they are their thoughts. When a worried thought appears, they become worried. When an angry thought shows up, they become angry. When a sad thought visits, they become sad. But the seventh lesson reveals something amazing. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them happen. Imagine sitting in a movie theater watching a horror film. On the screen, terrible things are happening. Monsters chasing people, buildings exploding, characters dying. But you're perfectly safe in your seat, eating popcorn and knowing it's all just images on a screen. Your thoughts work the same way. They're like movies playing in your mind, but you don't have to believe every scene or get emotionally caught up in every story. The wise person learns to step back and watch their thoughts like a curious scientist. When a negative thought appears, instead of immediately believing it, they think, "Oh, there's a worry thought," or "Here comes an angry thought." They observe it with interest, but don't get pulled into its drama. This changes everything about how you handle difficult emotions. When anxiety tries to convince you that something terrible is about to happen, you can simply notice, "My mind is creating scary stories right now." When depression tells you that nothing will ever get better, you can observe there's a hopeless thought passing through. The thoughts lose their power because you're no longer hypnotized by them. Think about clouds in the sky. They appear, change shape, and disappear, but they never damage the sky itself. Your thoughts are like those clouds, temporary visitors in the space of your awareness. Some are dark and stormy, others are light and pleasant, but they all pass by if you just let them. The beautiful thing about this practice is that it creates space between you and your reactions. Instead of instantly responding to every thought or feeling, you can pause and choose your response. Someone says something that usually would make you angry, but now you notice anger is arising and decide whether acting on it would be helpful or not. While you've been learning to watch your thoughts, there's an eighth principle that will anchor you in the one place where real peace actually exists: this exact moment. Most people miss their entire lives because they're always somewhere else in their minds. Watch how your mind works throughout a typical day. While brushing your teeth, you're thinking about your morning meeting. During the meeting, you're worried about lunch plans. At lunch, you're already stressing about afternoon deadlines. During dinner, you're replaying what happened at work. Before bed, you're planning tomorrow, when you actually experience today. The eighth lesson teaches you something radical. The present moment is the only time that actually exists. The past is just memories stored in your brain. The future is just imagination and planning. But right now, this very second, as you read these words, is the only reality you can actually touch. Here's what's amazing about focusing on the present. It's where all your power lives. You can't change what happened yesterday, no matter how much you think about it. You can't control what will happen tomorrow, despite all your worrying. But you have complete control over what you choose to do right now. Think about a time when you were completely absorbed in something you loved. Maybe you were playing a sport, creating art, having a great conversation, or spending time in nature. In those moments, you weren't thinking about past mistakes or future problems. You were fully here, and it felt wonderful. The wise person learns to bring that same complete attention to ordinary activities. When washing dishes, they feel the warm water and soap bubbles instead of mentally rehearsing tomorrow's presentation. When walking, they notice their feet touching the ground rather than getting lost in endless mental chatter. When talking to someone, they actually listen instead of preparing what to say next. This isn't about forcing yourself to stop thinking. It's about gently bringing your attention back to what's happening right now whenever you notice your mind has wandered off. Your breath is always available as an anchor. It only happens in the present moment. So focusing on breathing automatically brings you back to now. The most surprising benefit of present moment awareness is how much richer life becomes. Food tastes better when you actually pay attention to eating it. Conversations become more meaningful when you're fully engaged. Even simple activities like walking or sitting become sources of quiet contentment when you're completely there for them. As you master the art of being present, you'll discover something that might shock you. The ninth principle reveals the difference between unavoidable pain and the suffering you accidentally create for yourself every day. Life includes real pain, physical injuries, losing people you love, getting sick, facing disappointments. These things hurt, and that's completely natural. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a second layer of pain that you add on top of the real pain, and this extra suffering is completely optional. Imagine you stub your toe on a table. The physical pain lasts maybe 30 seconds, but then your mind takes over. I'm so clumsy. Why didn't I see that table? This always happens to me. Now I'm going to be late. Suddenly, you're suffering for the next 10 minutes about a 30-second event. The toe pain was real and unavoidable. The mental drama was extra and unnecessary. The ninth lesson teaches you to spot the difference between what actually hurts and the stories you tell yourself about what hurts. When someone rejects you, the initial sting is real. But when you spend weeks replaying the rejection, imagining all the reasons why you're not good enough, and predicting that no one will ever accept you, that's self-created suffering. Most of your daily stress comes from these mental add-ons. You have a normal argument with a friend, but then you spend hours imagining worst-case scenarios about your friendship ending. You make a mistake at work, but then you torture yourself with thoughts about getting fired and ruining your career. You feel sick for a day, but then you convince yourself you might have a serious disease. The wise person learns to catch these thought spirals before they take over. When something painful happens, they feel the real pain without adding layers of dramatic interpretation. They ask themselves, what actually happened here? Versus, what story am I telling myself about what happened? This doesn't mean you become emotionless or stop caring about things. It means you stop making everything worse than it actually is. When you lose a job, you feel disappointed without deciding you're a complete failure. When someone doesn't text you back, you feel a little hurt without creating an entire narrative about being unwanted. The freedom comes from realizing that most of your suffering isn't caused by events themselves, but by your thoughts about events. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can learn to stop feeding dramatic stories to your mind about what happens to you. Now we reach the final and perhaps most surprising principle of all. After learning 9 powerful lessons about how to handle life's challenges, the 10th teaching asks you to let go of needing to have all the answers. Think about how much energy you spend trying to figure everything out. You analyze past relationships to understand exactly what went wrong. You research every possible outcome before making decisions. You try to predict what other people are thinking. You want to know why bad things happen and what the future holds. But here's the liberating truth. You don't need to understand everything to live well. The 10th lesson teaches you to find peace in uncertainty. Most of the things you worry about figuring out are either impossible to know for sure or don't actually matter as much as you think they do. Why did your friends stop calling? Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're upset. Maybe they lost your number. You could drive yourself crazy trying to solve this mystery, or you could simply reach out and see what happens. Children are natural masters of not knowing. A 5-year-old doesn't need to understand how airplanes work to enjoy flying. They don't need to predict their entire future to be excited about tomorrow. They're comfortable saying, "I don't know," without feeling stupid or inadequate. Somewhere along the way, adults convince themselves that not knowing things is a problem that needs to be solved. The wise person learns to say, "I don't know," with confidence instead of shame. When someone asks about your 5-year plan, you can honestly say you're taking life one day at a time. When people want your opinion on complicated political issues, you can admit you don't have enough information to decide. When faced with big life choices, you can acknowledge that you're doing your best with limited information. This approach removes enormous pressure from your daily life. You stop pretending to have certainty about uncertain things. You stop feeling like you need to have an intelligent opinion about everything. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control variables that are completely out of your hands. The most beautiful part of embracing not knowing is that it opens you up to genuine learning and surprise. When you think you already understand something completely, you stop paying attention to new information. But when you approach life with curiosity instead of false certainty, every day becomes an opportunity to discover something unexpected. You just learned 10 principles that can completely transform how you experience life. But here's the thing. Knowing these ideas won't change anything unless you actually start using them. The real magic happens when you take these lessons out into your daily life and begin practicing them. Start small. Pick one principle that spoke to you most and try it for just 1 week. Maybe it's watching your thoughts like clouds in the sky, or accepting what you can't change, or staying present during simple activities. Don't try to master everything at once. That's a recipe for giving up. These teachings have helped millions of people find peace for thousands of years. They're not just pretty ideas. They're practical tools that work when you use them. Every time you choose acceptance over resistance, every moment you respond with kindness instead of anger, every day you focus on what you can control instead of what you can't, you're building the life you actually want to live. If these principles made sense to you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos that can help you grow. And please, share this video with someone who might need to hear these ideas. You never know whose life you might change by passing along this wisdom. Remember, you already have everything you need to be unshakable. These principles just help you remember what you've always known deep down. The person who can remain calm in any storm, who can find peace in any situation, who can stay kind even when others are cruel, that person is already inside you, waiting to come out. Start today. Start now. Your journey to becoming truly unaffected by life's chaos begins with your very next choice.